let's get started and jump right into Flex MLS. Just a quick refresher if you are new completely, you go to MLSunited.com. You'll log in, you'll enter your login info. You will go to your Connect dashboard, which, again, just as a reminder, broadcast notices sometimes will pop up here as well. So check those out later. You get to Flex by clicking the Flex MLS icon right here. And then if you ever want to dabble in any of the other awesome services that the MLS offers, those are all right here as well. And then I know how much you love paying money for things. So if you have an account balance for any type of MLS fees or, board dues, they will be right here. And then you can register for any upcoming classes right here, which you already know that because you got the link to this class, which means you registered for it right here. But yeah, you click Flex MLS and it will open just like so with your info already logged in. And then as we're going through today, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask them via your microphone on your computer. But the best way to ask questions would be into chat. That way they can be addressed in a timely manner, and it may not interrupt like what I'm currently going over. If it is a question related to what we go over today, I will gladly answer it or tell you, hey, I will go over that here shortly. If it's completely unrelated to what we're going over today, I might just have to talk to you either after the class or tell you about some of the other upcoming classes that I'm doing. So let's get started. So let's say that you have your listing agreement signed, everything is ready to rock and roll, and you go into the MLS and you want to add that listing. Well, once you're in Flex here, you can get to add a listing a couple of different ways. Some people might have it on their quick access bar here at the top, but if you do not see it, the main way to get to it is by clicking on menu right here in the top left. And then under add/change this category, the first option you have is add listing. You will click on that. And then congratulations, you have officially begun the add listing process. Now, as like users of the MLS, your name will be here on listing member. Mine looks like this because I'm doing this as an admin and I'm actually logged in as another agent. And yes, the agent I'm logged in as is my mother-in-law. That way, if I accidentally do something to mess one of her listings up or add a listing by accident, it's not the end of the world. And I can just send her a text and say, hey, sorry. And I hope she forgives me. But you'll notice the very first question that you are asked when you go to add a listing, it's on this general tab right here, is the property type. And this is arguably the most important thing you can select when you start this process. Because once you select a property type, that is going to determine what fields are going to be populated on these other tabs. Which is why, if you ever add a listing under the incorrect property type and it's active and you call us and say, hey, can you switch the property type? We actually cannot do that as admin because once that's selected, that changes all of the other required fields and it changes the listing entirely. So please ensure that you are selecting the correct property type from the start and you won't have any more problems after that. So for today's example, I will select residential, but these are the other different property types that you can select. So we'll click on residential. Now, under listing member, again, your name will be there. You have the option to put co-listing member as well if you are co-listing this with another agent. But you noticed when I selected the property type, another option popped up here at the bottom and it says this is a regular listing or a parent listing, or this is a child listing, MLS number of parent. This is a question we get a lot. Like, what the heck is that? I will be honest, when this was added, I didn't know what that was. And I had to reach out to the COO, Robert Comwell, and ask him, hey, what's going on here? What this means, oops, I'm going to mute. Mute all. Okay. Sorry about that. And what that means, and actually the best way to describe it is to give you an example. This would come in handy. Let's say that somebody has a 10-acre plot of land, and let's say it's a grandparent, and they have a 10-acre plot of land, and they have three grandchildren that they claim that they love equally. So they decide to get the land surveyed out and parceled out into three individual parcels, like 3.33 acres, and each of the grandchildren get a 3.33 acre parcel of land. Okay, and so it was surveyed out, and that was all said and done. Well, then years go by, and the grandchildren collectively decide, hey, you know what? None of us are really care to like take care of this place. Let's list it. And so now that they've decided to list it, they have options. What they could do is take the entire 10-acre plot of land and list it as an individual listing in like with their agent, and then that agent could put it in and they would enter it as a regular listing, or parent listing in this case. Okay, get it added, make it go live to where it has an MLS number. They could then turn around and add those individual ones, the 3.3 acre lots, as child listings, and then they would just reference the original MLS number of that 10-acre plot. Does that make sense? So, for those on camera, you can nod your heads. And sorry, I just saw that they put no, there's not going to be tumblers. I totally plugged a tumbler earlier, and apparently they're not going to have those, but other cool stuff. But anyways, so they would just reference that original MLS number to that. Now, the only other item that we say when you do these situations, again, they don't come up much, but when you do them, is not only reference that MLS number here, but reference it in the agent notes as well. Like in each of those listings, like reference, like, the main listing. That way there's transparency for it when people are looking at it, and like they're like, oh, okay, like this could also be, 3.3 or 6.6 acres, if they wanted to buy it that way. So yeah, but for today's example, we're just going to do a regular listing. So we'll select regular listing, residential property type, and then you can either click next here at the bottom right, or you can just click on the next tab over the address. Now, here is where you are going to start seeing items that are marked in red with a little like asterisk thing. And if you see anything like that, that means it is required. And then also, as we go through the rest of this, you'll notice some fields will have either little info boxes or comments already beside them. Those are to help you out, and these are added based on questions that we have had on repeat throughout the years. So we try to, get a jump on the questions and try to help you out. So you don't if you're doing this at 9 p.m. at night and you don't have anyone to call, usually these little text here will help you out tremendously. So yeah, just go through and enter the basic information that's required. So like for the street number, we're going to do that, and then the street name. Now, when you enter your street name, it just needs to be the name of the street and not the suffix, aka, drive, boulevard, avenue. That will go in the suffix right here. As a matter of fact, that is what these sentences are telling you right here. So, for today's example, I'm going to be using my mom's address. So I use my mother-in-law as the realtor, and then I use my mom's address as the example. So we had that, and her street name is just Douglas Drive. So in this, I'm just going to put Douglas, and then in the suffix, I'll just click on it and scroll down and select Drive. Voila. And then underneath county, obviously put in your county. Now, when you add your county, what it's going to do, it's going to start breaking down each of these items. So now that I've clicked DeSoto County, the only cities that will show will be in DeSoto County. And then if you click a city with multiple zip codes, it'll do the same thing. This city only has one zip code to it, so it automatically filled that in. Now, the next item before you get to the next tab is the parcel number. And while, yes, you can pull this up with the public tax info, you can, manually write it if you want, but there's a lot of zeros a lot of the time in those, and it's very easy to have a typo when entering a parcel number. Well, because of one of the products that we offer in our with the MLS right here, it says CoreLogic Realist. That is a public tax integration system that we have with the MLS, and it makes life so much easier when it comes to entering parcel numbers and looking up public tax info. But because it's integrated with the MLS, there is a populate tax data right here. Let's see what happens when I click that. Oh, wow. It's like magic. It just added the parcel number right there for you. And so you don't have to worry about any weird typos. It's just there. It also adds some additional information on the next tabs that you'll see that'll make life a little easier as well. So, with that said, we're going to click next. And when I click next, a box is going to pop up just like that. And what this is doing is it's taking that information you had, blending it through or not blending it, but like running it through Google Maps and trying to narrow down where that location is. 99% of the time, it's going to be the correct location, and it'll drop a pin right on the property. If that is correct, all you do is click on use this location, and then it'll move you to the next tab. Now, if for some reason, or it's like a weird address, like a land, it's not maybe in like the public tax database or something, and you need to do a little bit of manual location, you can click and drag this and place it wherever you need to place it. So, and then you can either use a scroll wheel on your mouse to scroll out, or you can use this little button here on the bottom right, and it'll expand out, and you can expand it out as far as you need and then drag it to the proper location and then click use this location, and then it, like I said, it moves you to the next item. The next tab over is the main fields. This is like the more important like information that's going to be like on your listing report. So from here you just scroll down. Again, anything in red with an asterisk is going to be required. So, additional parcel numbers here is not required, but if there are additional parcels, you could absolutely add those in there. Subdivision, you click on it, type in the name of a subdivision, and it'll pop up in the list. Now, a couple of things with subdivision. If your listings, the subdivision is not in here, let's say it's a new area and it's just not in the MLS yet, you can give us a call or email compliance and they can get that added for you. Additionally, if the subdivision just does not exist, like it's not in a subdivision, which actually is the case for my mom's house, like it's a subdivision, but it doesn't have a name. It's weird. But in her case, what do you do? Well, you remember how I said we add sentences beside little tips here? It says if your listing is not in a subdivision, please select the option called meets and bounds. So if you come across any of these items and you're like a question, read the sentence or the little info thing beside it before you like go, whoa, what do I do? Read the sentence. We probably covered your question. But in her case, it says select meets and bounds. So, okay, let's click in subdivision and type in meets and bounds. There it is. Voila, we're good. The next item under that is directions to property, and it is not required, which means it's optional. And this is not a place to be mean. And what I mean by that is don't type in this. Okay? Don't do that. All right. We have seen it. That's not nice. Okay. There's enough negativity in this world. If you don't have anything nice to say, as my grandfather said, don't say anything at all. Okay. Just if you're going to put directions to property, make it actual directions. Don't be a meanie beanie. All right. So scroll down. Alrighty, now here we have the listing information part. So this is going to just simply reflect what your listing agreement is. And this is also a very good time for me to say that as MLS administrators, staff members here, compliance, member services, any of our departments, we are all in with MLS, okay? We are not people that you need to reach out to in regards to contract advice or contract questions. We are not licensed brokers. We are not licensed real estate attorneys. We cannot legally provide counsel in regards to contracts for your listings. If you call the MLS and ask questions regarding your contract, like we have had, well, what type of contract do I pick? What type of contract do I have? Is there an amendment for this or an addendum for this? we will say one of like three things. We'll either tell you you need to contact your broker. Okay. And if your broker is unavailable, or we've had this where they say, well, I am the broker, then my next advice is to go to the Mississippi Realtors website and go to their legal hotline. And as a matter of fact, this is why I love doing this virtually. Go to msrealtors.org, like so. And then under member services, they have a tab called member services right here. There is a tab that says legal hotline. Click it. And then this will be how you can contact them. Just make sure you have the information right here, but that is where you will find that legal hotline. Okay. And then depending on the circumstances of their question, the third option I've given them is contact a real estate attorney. But that rarely is my recommendation. A lot of the times, usually broker first, maybe legal hotline. Then, if it's bad, maybe a real estate attorney. But those would be the options we would tell you. So that being said, we give you the options to put it in here. But in regards to what is actually in that contract, we can't necessarily like guide you on that legally. So all right. But anyway, so you have your status right here. It's automatically set to active, but it is a drop down because you have two options. You have active and active new construction. An active new construction listing is that in between phase where it's an actual residential listing because it's not a plot of land anymore, but it's not a livable house yet. So like maybe a slab's been poured, it's been framed, but there's no heating and air in it yet. There's no walls or insulation or roof. And so you do have the option to make it an active new construction. And if you click that, you'll have a projected completion date that you can select. And once that projected completion date arrives, it'll automatically move to an active status. And it helps with the days on market if you want to go that route with it. Again, it is optional to use that. You can still just keep it as active if you would want, but we do give you that option. The next item under that is list date, expiration date, list price. These just need to reflect what is on your listing agreement. Now, you notice there's a bunch of different sentences and fonts and colors beside list date. This is a problem that has arose for a lot of people. What they do is they know they have a listing coming up, but before that listing agreement signed or before that effective marketing date has arrived, they go in and go ahead and get all the information into the MLS, which makes sense. Like, you want to get a jump on it and, go ahead and make sure it's ready to rock and roll, and then you can click, go live. Well, what they're doing is, let's say they're 7 days out from their effective marketing date, and they're going through and adding all this, and they add a date and they click today's date on here. Well, then 7 days later, they go in, they're so excited, they're ready to make it go live that they make it go live, but they don't adjust that list date. And so when it goes live, it automatically has 7 days on the market already. And then they have to contact, and you can't backtrack dates on market. If agents were able to do that, we would just every listing would be a new listing forever. Okay, so they have to contact us. We have to verify, the dates on their contract, and then we have to backtrack that date for them. So that's what all these sentences are here for. Hey, double check this date. Make sure if your saving is incomplete, just don't enter a listing date yet. Wait until it's ready to go live before you enter a date in this field. So that's what all these are saying. All right. Expiration date and list price, like I said, just reflects what is on there. Listing agreement. This is where you select your listing agreement type. You have exclusive agency, exclusive right to sell. If you need a refresher on what those are, you can click here. And that's about as far as we can go in regards to telling you which listing agreement you need to have. Because outside of that, I'm going to tell you those three options that I mentioned earlier. Listing service. This says full service, limited service. There are some companies that offer full service, most that offer full service, but there are some that do what is called limited service, where I don't know how their system's in place, but a lot of them will just do like a flat rate system. They'll get a listing agreement, they'll put it in the MLS, and then that's pretty much it. They'll leave it up to the homeowner or, or agency, whoever's, doing it to schedule showings and whatnot. that. So if that's you, it would need to be transparent that it's a limited service. Or if you're like, what is the full service versus limited service? You're probably a full service agent. And then this question mark here gives you an example of, what a limited service listing would be. Showing exclusions, reserved prospects. These showing exclusions means that there is a named individual who may not enter the property due to whatever unfortunate circumstances might be. So, like, there's restraining orders involved. This just helps ensure that the other agents aren't representing somebody who's just trying to sneak into a house when they're not supposed to be sneaking into a house. And how this works is you would mark it as yes, and then you would just maybe put in agent remarks like, hey, call for more information. Do not name the individual in the listing report, because that is a good way to have a legal issue involved. So you would just mark it as yes, put call for more info, and then usually maybe the other agent would call you and be like, hey, I just want to make sure I'm not representing. I have this person right here. Is that, the showing exclusion? And they could say yes or no. Reserve prospects means that there's someone who is actually excluded from the terms of the listing agreement for either the full term or a certain period of time. So, an example here would be that if you got like Uncle Bob, and Uncle Bob said that he's going to be coming into some money soon, and he wants to buy your house just between you and him if, this works out. But in the meantime, you still want your house listed for sale. So, again, is just for transparency purposes there. If there is somebody, and it gives people some realistic expectations that, hey, yes, we can put a contract in on this house, but I just want to let you know they have a reserve like they have somebody reserved on the side that possibly could, get the deal. So it also kind of might help, with what offers your client send to that person. Owner agent, yes or no. Special listing conditions. This is just saying, hey, what type of sale? Short sale, standard, auction, bankruptcy. Office exclusive, it's automatically set to no. And then there's a big word that says attention. I added that. And the reason for that is because an office exclusive is a special type of listing, which means that, hey, you are not getting any MLS exposure. You are not getting any exposure to third party websites. It's exclusively within your office. And for, whatever period of time, there's no public marketing. But a lot of people were marking this as yes because I think they were getting it confused with exclusive right to sell, maybe. I'm not sure. But it was a problem. And people would call and say, hey, my listing's not showing up on Zillow, or hey, nobody can find my listing in the MLS. This was the first place I checked. Like, as soon as somebody would call with that, I would go right here and say, well, you have it marked as an office exclusive, so that's why. And they're like, what does that mean? I'm like, there you go. So it's automatically set to no. And if you have to ask yourself what an office exclusive is or why it's set to no, you probably just need to keep it how it is. Okay. Is sub-agency being offered? This is an old school like method that I've been talking about for years, and it's still weird to me, but this is a definition of sub-agency being offered. Again, if you have to ask what sub-agency means, it's probably going to be no on that. If you're wondering if you're offering that, I again would run it by your broker. Are allowance concessions being offered here? This just means this is a yes or no, saying the seller may consider allowance or concessions to the buyer. This has nothing to do with anything to you, commission, anything like that. This is concessions or allowances from the seller to the buyer. Okay, so like, fence allowance, floor allowance, whatever it might be. And then if there are any that are, added there, that would be added when you close the listing out. Property subtypes, single family residence, condominium, new construction, yes or no. So the difference between new construction field here versus the active new construction status that I showed you earlier is this means that it's a new construction house, but if it's like a finished house ready to rock and roll, but just never been lived in and super fresh, but it is livable, then you would mark that as yes. Then you have some other options that are not required here, but you notice on lot size acres, it's automatically added. That was another item that was added when I populated that tax data earlier. So very, very handy. Lot size dimensions, you have the option to add approximate heated and cooled square footage. You put that in. That is not automatically added because even though the public tax record or assessor or public record is an option for a source on there, that's there to cover you in case it is wrong. But I like to really just let agents know, hey, if you have any other way of, having a confirmed source for your square footage other than the public tax assessor, then please use that. So if you have floor plans, if the in my opinion, an appraised square footage is the best method. But yeah, if you can't do that, because the tax assessor, I've noticed, I don't think they think that upstairs exist, and they include attics, or they include garage spaces and all that. They basically measure the slab, from what I've seen. So maybe try to get anything other than that. But if that is the only option you have, put it in there, and then just make sure that assessor is selected, and then that'll be. But again, if you can do anything else, then that's great. Additional heated and cooled square footage. So this would be if you have like an in-law suite on the property, anything like that that's also heated and cooled, but it's detached from the actual main house itself. And a lot of people like to ask, like, hey, well, yeah, that has a covered like walkway, to get to it. So it is technically attached. I said, no, if you have to go into the elements, so that means if you can feel wind, or if it's raining sideways outside and that walkway is exposed, anything exposed to the elements that you have to walk to that other piece of property, then that means it is additional heated and cooled square footage and not part of the main square footage of the property. Year built was automatically added. Year built source, you can put public record. Garage spaces, carport spaces are required, but if there are none, you just put zero. Total floors, and then bathrooms full, bathrooms half, and then bathroom three quarter. Bathroom three quarter is a new RESO data dictionary term that was added in the last year. And what that just means is there's a bathroom in the house that contains three of the four elements. You notice I clicked the little question mark there, and it gave you a definition of what it is. And so a typical one's going to contain a walk-in shower, a sink, and a toilet, but it won't have a bathtub. That's typically what a three-quarter bath is. I believe that if you do put three-quarter bath though in the MLS, it still does default to like bathroom amounts on third-party websites. So you should be good there if you're worried about, like, because most people will look at those and say that's a full bath, but technically the RESO definition is a three-quarter. Fireplace, yes or no. Pool, yes or no. And you notice there's a question mark beside pool, and you're like, oh, why is there a question mark? That's because what people will do is they'll have a property in a subdivision, but that subdivision has a community pool, and they're going to mark, and they try to mark this as yes, when in reality, they don't need to do that. That's actually what this question mark right here says. So if there is a community pool, you do not mark that as yes. Okay. Community pool is added in community features and the next tab over. Okay. This means that there is a pool located on the actual property. If there is not a pool on the property, it needs to be marked as no. School district. This was automatically added as well when I did the tax populating, and but just depending on your area, you're kind of at the mercy of how up to date your public tax, system is. So if it's not online, or if they're still on a filing cabinet system, it may or may not populate automatically, like all this tax stuff that I've shown you. But here it did. So it said, okay, we're in the DeSoto County School District. And then because of the location, that's why all of these are required so far. So just go through and select what apply, and you will be good to go. If there are, two elementary schools in the area, but this particular one is only for one elementary school, you can put in A for that on there. Home warranty. This is a yes or no question. This means does the house have a home warranty? Accessibility features, yes or no. This means that, hey, is there any handicapped accessible features on the property? So this could be anything from ramps on, like, on entryways or in the house, stair lifts, if you have special, the high rise toilets with railing or anything in the bathrooms, you can mark that as yes. The tax annual amount automatically populated in there for you, as well as the tax year. Uh-oh. Get that off. And then has homestead been filed? Yes or no? What year was it filed? Additional exemptions, yes or no? Special zoning, so if it's zoned in a special way, downtown, industrial, agriculture. Um, Leasehold, yes or no? Has it been sold in the previous 12 months? Oh, here we go. Association. This is asking if it is a part of a condominium, homeowner, or neighborhood association. This is not asking if you are part of a realtor association. A lot of people were marking this as yes because they were like, "Yeah, I just joined the board and I gave them all my dues and everything. Yeah, I'm a part of it. I'm going to make sure that's in there." Nope, this is MLS. This this has nothing to do with what board you're part of. This is asking what if it is part of a homeowner association. Saying covenants, yes or no. And then legal description. This was also automatically added in there when I populated the tax data. Now, this is also a great example of what a legal description will look like in case it doesn't populate for you. This is what it would look like. And then it has the owner information, all that. You can opt to keep that in or take it out, completely up to you. And then here we go. Public remarks, agent remarks. Public remarks are required. You got to have something in there. And you all, I'm assuming, know the rules here, but the public remarks, you do not put anything that resembles branding, calls to action, anything that might direct them out of the MLS or out of like the listing itself. You do not put in the public remarks. Okay. So if you do that, I can assure you that you will be told on by at least 7 people, and you're going to get a nice email from compliance saying, "Hey, don't do this. You're going to get fined." And so the public remarks need to be used for information about the subject property. If you are asking yourself what, like you just wrote up some stuff, ask yourself, is this about this property that I'm selling or is this about me? Okay. If it's not about the property, it doesn't need to go in the public remarks. Now, not that doesn't mean that you can't spruce it up, for like marketing value and, make it sound nice and lovely, because I'm sure you're all very well aware of this little thing called Chat GPT. So all you got to do is write up a basic description, in Chat GPT of what you're selling, and then say, make this look good, make sure there's nothing that might show some branding, and voila, it'll give you a nice, beautiful, artistic writing style for that listing. So try it out. It's pretty cool, but just make sure you don't have any branding. Agent remarks. This is where you can put other stuff. I honestly don't care what you put in agent remarks. This is from agent to agent, so you can put numbers in there. Um, you can put special like information like, "Hey, watch the third step on the entryway. It's a little loose." Or, "Hey, there's a dog in the house. Please make sure it's in the cage before walking in. Otherwise, it might maul you." Anything like that can go in agent remarks. Do, do, do. Make sure I'm reading some chats here. Yeah, somebody said use the word rewrite in Chat GPT. So what that means is once you do a prompt in Chat GPT, if you don't like what it wrote up, you can click on rewrite and it'll give you different versions. You can even like add to it, be like rewrite this, but add this. It's very, very, very cool. Does an elevator count for accessibility? Huh. That's a good question. I would think so, because it makes it to where you avoid stairs. So I personally would say that that's accessibility, but let's see. Oh, yeah, Stephanie already answered it. Thank you, Stephanie. Alrighty. Okay, and then down here at the bottom, showing instructions for showing time users, and then office remarks. So this showing instruction for showing time users, this means that these are showing instructions specifically if you are using showing time. So if you have showing time, the free showing time or your own showing time account, in here, what you put here will go into showing time. This doesn't go into the actual listing report. Office remarks are just remarks for like people within your office that they would see. You only have 200 available characters for it. So this would just be like a quick note if you needed to add something for your office. So that's the bottom of the main fields. I'm going to take a sip. Uh, and so the next tab over is the details tab. And don't worry, I'm not going to spend the same amount of time on the details tab that I just did on the main fields because the main fields are the more important ones. The details tab is where you fine tune your listing. Which brings me to a tip that I give people when I teach this class, virtually, in person, it doesn't matter. And that tip is the we want the like the most data, but also the most accurate data for listings within the MLS. Okay, so that said, don't rush when you go to add a listing. Okay. Um, Please don't rush. Okay. Because when you rush, mistakes can happen. When mistakes can happen, you have inaccurate data. You could accidentally put something somewhere it's not supposed to go. You could get in trouble. And ultimately, it does a disservice not only to your client, but to your fellow realtors. So, take your time as you go through this and make sure all of the available and accurate information is in here. And I say that because you see how much I'm scrolling. The MLS is not missing on information. Okay. So just go through here onto each little section and read what it says at the top. Structure type, select one. Okay, select your structure type. Levels, select one. I don't know how you could select more than one because I don't think a house can be a one level and a three level at the same time. That would defy the laws of physics. But don't select more than one level. But then as you scroll down, you'll notice some other ones like appliances, select between 1 and 74 items. Okay. So if you select 75 items on appliances, you're going to have an error. Okay. Also, I really would love to see that listing if it has 75 appliances in it. That would be a very interesting house. So, and then we're just going to scroll down. I'll just show you like one or two more things. So, like cooling, select between 1 and 5. Heating, select between 1 and 5. And then utilities, this says select between 1 and 6. And I'm going to stop on this and just show you something because, yes, you shouldn't have any more than 6 utility options like on here. But I've had a phone call multiple times on this, and what happened was they had like 12 things selected on utilities, and I was like, well, that's obviously wrong. What's going on there? And so what I did was I found that they came and they put cable available and they also had cable connected. They had both of these selected. And then I thought, I was like, well, technically they're not wrong, okay, at all. But I asked them in the most polite way ever. I said, okay, sir, well, if cable is connected already, does that not then imply that cable is available? Because I don't think it could be connected if it wasn't available. And they're like, oh, yeah, good point. So I was like, yeah. So let's just uncheck cable available and just keep cable connected, and you'll be good to go. Same thing with, electricity, phone, sewer, all that. Now, I like to use my mom's house for this example because in her case, when her house, when they first moved into their house, they were actually in the county. And it wasn't until years later where they built a school close by that they were rezoned to city. Well, when they did that, they actually ran city sewer through the street that my mom lives on, and they gave all of the residents the option to tie into city sewer, or they could stay on their septic systems. So my parents actually opted to stay on the septic system, and that's how it is to this day. But there is a sewer tap at the street if it ever needed to be connected. So if she were to ever sell her house, she could then mark, okay, sewer is available, but it's not connected, and then tie in that way. So I just always like to point those out. All right, so yep, and then you just go through. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Yep. Again, not a lot of things missing on this. And before I move on to the next tab, I'm going to, who's ready to learn their computer tip of the day? If you are on a website, a PDF document, anything on your computer that contains text, and let's say a lot of text, well, did you know that you can actually keyword search that text on any device and find something very quickly? And you do that if you are on a Windows computer and you hit Control F, a box pops up right here and you can keyword search items that you are looking for. So I typed in pool. Remember when I said community pool? Okay. And we're just going to type in pool. Oh, there it is. And just either use the arrows or hit enter and it will keyword search anything right there for you. So right there, you got pool. And again, that works with anything with text, whether it's a document you're looking at, a report in the MLS, a website with a bunch of text. You can keyword search by hitting Control F. And my Mac folks out there, I didn't forget about you. If you're using a MacBook or a Mac system, then it would be Command F, not Control F. But hit Command F on a Mac and then Control F on a Windows computer. So, yep. Alrighty, so that's details. The next tab over is the rooms tab. It's not necessarily required to put the rooms, but if you do put the rooms, you just select the type of room and then you put the level that the room is on, and then you have remarks. Now, since in Mississippi, realtors don't measure, that's why it's called remarks and not measurements, okay? Because it's titled remarks, you would not be held accountable if you put incorrect measurements in here. But if you put in the remarks, 10 by 10, then people are like, okay, that's the remarks, but it's not technically measurements. You can put that in there, but since realtors don't measure, that's up to you on that. So, and then so you just go through, add all your rooms. The next tab over is the Photos tab, which is a very misleading title. It should just say Photo tab because right here is where you will just select your primary photo for the property and then add it. And then you would add your other photos on a different page. We've talked with Flex about changing it to allow you to add all of your photos right here and like on this page, but for right now, you just make sure you have your primary photo. And a couple of things with photos. For one, every listing requires at least one primary photo. Okay. It needs to be a front exterior elevation of the subject property, unless it is a waterfront. Waterfront can be, what side faces the water. That is allowed. But all other standard listings need to be a front facing photo of the exterior property. And the reason for that is because people need to look what, the face value is of that property. And so they can, start from there. And I'm sure it has a beautiful master bathroom with a nice, beautiful bidet, American standard toilet. But that doesn't need to be the face of that house. Okay. It needs to be the exterior shot. And then another item, photos, if you want to write this down. They are either going to be in JPEG or PNG format. That is what is accepted. And then they cannot exceed 15 megabytes in size. Okay. If they are over that size limit, they will not be able to be added to the MLS. So if you're somebody that takes your own photos on your phone, you're good. Your phone doesn't take giant megapixel photos. Okay. So you'll be good. If you use a professional photographer, if they are doing real estate photography, they know what the size standard is for MLSs, hopefully. But if they don't, just let them know, hey, make sure my photos aren't more than 15 megabytes in size, and they'll make sure they're compressed for you. And then the final tab, broker distribution. This is just where sellers can opt out from their listing being sent out to third party websites outside of the MLS. So if they didn't want it there, you could check any of these, and then that would take care of that for them. So, alrighty. Once you go through these final tabs here, let's say that you did just have one photo and you're ready to rock and roll and add this listing. All you would do is click add listing, and then it would be added as long as there are no errors in all the information you just put in. But if you needed to add additional items such as documents, photos, anything like that, you can you have this option. You could click save incomplete listing right here, and it'll take it a second to load, and then it's going to automatically move you to the next page. And then from this page right here, this is the change in complete listing page. This is where you can add your photos, floor plans, documents, or if you have videos and virtual tours. So if you click photos right here, this is where you can add all of your photos. Now, this page, you can add, however many photos you have right there, like all at once, and it'll add them for you. Then you can, rearrange them if you would like, completely up to you. I'm going to click return to edit your listing, and then it's going to take me back here. Floor plans are the same way. And then documents, when you click documents, you can add them. Those need to be in PDF format. Okay. And again, I'm sure you know that, but they need to be in PDF format. You cannot upload a Word document to this page. It has to be PDF. And then with documents, the size limit is 10 megabytes per document. Okay, they cannot exceed 10 megabytes. Now, PDFs are text documents. They have no business being more than 10 megabytes. Usually, the case when those blow up to large sizes happens when they've been scanned from like an older printer, maybe, and then sent that way. For some reason it blows them up. I don't know, but those will need to be compressed down on the file size if they are over 10 megabytes. And then video and virtual tours. When you go to add these, whether it's a video or a virtual tour, these are not uploaded directly. Okay, you don't upload videos the same way you would like a photo in the MLS because videos are typically a much larger file size. Videos and virtual tours need to be added via like shareable links. Okay, so if you did a video yourself, you would need to upload it to like your a YouTube account or a Vimeo account, something like that, and add it that way. If you use a real estate videographer, then they usually will provide a shareable link for you. Same with virtual tours. So like if you're doing a Cubicasa tour, a Matterport tour. Then those also provide shareable links once they're made, and you would add them there. Okay, now, but let's say that you added all of this other information from earlier, but you're still waiting on photos, or you're still waiting on the, property conditions disclosure, something like that, and you leave, your house, you go out and do your thing for however, whatever, and then you come back and you get into the MLS like this, and you're like, wait, how do I get back to that incomplete page? Like, what do I do? Well, super, super simple. So if you need to get back to add additional items to an incomplete listing, you go into Flex now, and then you go into Menu. And then you remember when we had that ad listing right here under add/change? Well, it's still in that same category, the add/change, but there is an option that says My Incomplete. And you're about to crack up when I click this. But as you can see, I use my mother-in-law for these classes a lot. And so she has a lot of the same ones here. And you just find the one you were just working on. So let's see. Let me find today's date. Oh, there we go. So you click on it, and then you scroll down, and then you click Edit. And then you're back on this page. You can add your photos and all that. Once it is ready to be added and everything, once everything's said and done, what you'll do is you'll stay on this page, or you'll go to this page that you're on, and then you'll actually click back into listing information under general, and that will bring you back to the page we started on. And then you click add listing, and then voila, your listing will be added and you will be good to go. So that's adding a listing and managing an incomplete listing. And then now, just the last 10 minutes, I'm just going to briefly show you how you can manage a listing once it's active. This part's super quick anyway, but let's say, it's been active for a while, but you need to make a change to it, whether it's a price change, you need to add some information to the public or agent remarks. You can go into Flex, and then you will go to Menu. And again, this should be familiar now because all of these items are going to be under the add/change field. But then you're just going to go to change listing. And then you'll see any of your active listings here. Now, look, full disclaimer here. I am actually into her like actual active listings. So I'm not going to do any actual changes because I really don't want to feel the wrath of my mother-in-law. So, but I'm going to show you how to get to them and make any changes you got to make. So you go to the menu, add listing, change list, or add/change and change listing right here. And so if it's an active status, it will pop up on this tab here that says active and future. But if it's in a different status, such as pending or anything like that, you can go to pending and it will pop up there. But like, let's say we want to make a change to this, you just click it and then it will bring you to the change listing page. So from this page, it looks familiar to that change and complete page. But you can scroll down, you have a few more options now. So, if you need to change the map location, it didn't ping right, you can do that. If you need to change the list price, there's a handy little tab right here for that. If you need to add additional items such as photos or floor plans, videos, you can add those here. If you need to schedule marketing activities such as open houses to the public or to brokers, then you can do that here. You can enable, disable showing time. So that's where all of these options, but most importantly is the status, because that's usually a lot of the times what people are going to change their listing for, and that's to change the status of their listing. Usually, dependent under contract or to mark it as closed. So, like if you need to pin it under contract, you click pin listing, and then you would put all this information here and save it, and then it would be added to, the pending status right there. So that's where you get in to make any general changes to your listing. If you need to go back into the public remarks, that's under the listing information right here. Go down and to public remarks, and then voila. All right, leave. Okay, so that's changing a listing. I told you that part was quick, and all that. Now, let's say that a client has asked, how much traction is my listing getting in the MLS? Like, how can I see, what it looks like? Well, from this change listing page, you notice at the top here, there's an activity tab. You can click on activity and it will bring you up a nice graphed activity report for that particular listing that you have. And this really, really comes in handy because it shows where people are viewing this listing. Okay, Flex IDX, Flex email, Flex portal. It just gives them a good idea of, where people are viewing this listing the most. So like the IDX is going to, from like any of those like third-party websites. Outside of the MLS. So that'll really give you a good idea of like, how the listing is acting. So there. Now, if you ever don't want to go into change listing, you can pull up the listing itself. Hang on, I think it was, yep. If you pull up the listing itself in the MLS, if it's your listing, you can also go over to the left where the status is showing and click this little arrow by the MLS number, and you can click on listing activity from there, and it'll bring up that same page. But yeah. Alrighty. So that being said, that's how you can go in to change your listing once it's active and good to rock and roll. And then we went through everything to add a listing. And then now what I'm going to do is just open it up for any questions somebody might have regarding what we just went over. Let's see. Okay, then went over that. Mouse is outdoor. For price reduction, would that just be under change price? Yes. So if you have a price reduction, you would go in to change your price. And while I'm on that note, actually, when you go in to change your list price, if it is larger than 10%, a notice is going to pop up that says, hey, this is larger than 10%. That is not preventing you from making that change. It is just simply telling you, hey, make sure this is right, because a lot of the times people will put an extra zero or omit a zero, and it can mess some stuff up. What if you need to delete the listing? Okay, so there's a difference between deleting a listing and canceling a listing. So if your listing falls through entirely, I'll show you actually. If your listing falls through and it is no longer an active listing at all, that means it needs to be canceled out. If you are an agent under a broker, you will not have the option to see the cancel button. What needs to happen is your broker will need to go into the MLS and cancel it out the same way they go into change a listing, but they'll have access and they'll see the option to cancel the listing. Okay. Deleting a listing, the only time that happens, for one, only like MLS admin can delete a listing entirely, like wipe it entirely. And that usually is the case if somebody's been scammed a lot of the time. Like they, got a completely false listing agreement and added it for whatever reason. That's the only time it's actually deleted. And again, we would have to do that. And this is also a great time to let you know that there is a difference between withdrawing a listing and canceling a listing. Because as an agent, like under a broker, you will have an option to withdraw a listing, but it also says withdraw temporary, and that would mean that it is not currently in active compilations, but your listing agreement is still intact. Okay, so if there was a leak in the house, or the homeowner had to go out of town, or they were doing some repairs, then and it just can't be shown at that time, you would mark it as withdrawn, and maybe for a week, and then you could put it back active after the fact. Canceled means that the listing agreement is no longer intact and it fell through. They're no longer your client and it's done. And again, your broker has to cancel a listing. So I go over hot sheets on a different class that we do. But this is another great time for me to show you something that I always like to plug, and that is the video training section in Flex. So if you just between now and maybe my next class, you want to learn the system a little bit more, if you are in Flex and you go over to the top right here that says Help, there's an option called video training. And if you click that, you have a whole library of different videos that Flex has added. They range everywhere from 1 minute long to 2 hours long, and they cover so many different things. And history lesson. The reason I vouch for this so much is because when I first started working in this industry back in 2019, I was fresh out of college with a communications like marketing degree, and I was like, okay. And I saw the Northwest had a communications position open. So I was like, yeah, let's go for that. Well, then I started, and then they said, hey, you're also going to be an MLS administrator. And my question to that was, what's an MLS? So I had to learn the MLS pretty quickly. And then this little thing called COVID happened, and we were working remote for a year, and I had no one to holler at down the hall. So I found the video training library, and I literally watched every single one of these videos, and I give it full credit for the reason I learned the MLS the way I did. So definitely check those out. As a matter of fact, you can keyword search. So like if somebody wanted to learn something about hot sheets, you can literally find there's different videos. There's a 3 minute video, a 13-minute video. They cover it in Flex Fundamentals. Um, so definitely check that out. But I do go over it in future classes as well. Somebody asked if this will be able to rewatch this live later. Yes, so all of these classes are recorded, and then we will upload them in the next few days to the MLS United YouTube channel, and we'll make it known that hey, this is now available. So yes, all of these are recorded. Um, strong sellers market. Jay, I don't know if that's a statement or a question. Yeah. I don't think it's a question. I think it's just a yeah. Yeah, no, people okay, what is the question then?
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes. Can you go over where the training videos are again? Right
Yes, ma'am.
fast. I think I missed it.
So if you are in Flex right here and you go over in the top right corner where it says help right here,
Okay.
click that and then just click on video training and then that library box will pop up for you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, so you said, as the listing agent, I know and feel the seller derives to be able to get a backup offer before listing as it before listing it as pending. I mean, if you have a can we not have to list it as pending until we have a back? No. If you get a contract on a listing, then it has to be marked as pending in the MLS. If somebody calls you and says, "Hey, we want to see this house," or "Hey, we want to, make an offer," and you tell them that it currently has a contract on it, and it's not marked as pending, they will tell on you and you will get in trouble. No, for transparency purposes, if you have a contract on a listing, it has to be marked as pending in the MLS. Sorry, I misread the first question. But yeah, so that said, I'm going to leave this open for the next few minutes in case some more questions roll in. But if you are good and ready to get out of here, you are more than welcome to leave. And because the class is officially over now. But again, I'll stick around for another few minutes to see if there's any questions. And again, if you can't put the questions in a chat, now that the class is over, I don't care if you want to, put it on a mic. I'd like to edit an older listing and make it active again. We do 6 month leases. I would like to recreate the listing when it comes available in 6 months instead of having to input all the. Okay, so Jay was asking about re-adding an older listing, that had previously closed in the MLS. So you wouldn't make the old listing active again because you will have a completely different listing agreement involved. But if you were the listing agent for that listing originally, you can actually copy that listing on there, and it'll have an all new MLS number, and the days on market won't, be skewed. And Jay, if you're looking at my screen, you do that. It's super easy. Go to menu, and then under add/change. You should be familiar with that now. Just go to copy, and then you can say what existing MLS number do you wish to copy, and then you just put the MLS number for that. You can even copy photos as long as it was your photos and everything, and then just hit next, and all of that general information will already be plugged in there for you, and then you'll just update the info like the dates and whatnot. So, thank you, Keith. So, I hope that answered your question, Jay, or addressed that. Yeah, not a problem. I took photos with my phone and they were not the right size. Tried to resize them, it did not load. Is there a trick? I'm not sure if it's a right size or not, Brenda, but if you're on an iPhone, sometimes iPhone photos are like the HEIC format. Then you would have to probably either convert them. But when you say the right size, like if you're talking about like size ratio, it kind of depends on your phone itself. I think you can adjust the size ratio on your phone, but no smartphone photo should be too large. So I guess like if you're just talking about like the way it's squared up in the MLS, it might just be your stock photo size. New to MLS United, how do we get CE credit for this class? This is not a CE class, Charlie. Yeah. No, any CE, you'll need to, talk. Um, I know the Mississippi Realtors, they host classes through the Mississippi Realtor Institute. Your local board will host classes a lot of the times, like, with different CE options. So I would check with them on that and then talk with the Real Estate Commission in regards to what CE classes you need. Um, Okay. And if there are no other questions, like I said, I'll hang out for another minute or so. If there are no other questions, then we are good to rock and roll. And I appreciate every single one of y'all that were in attendance today. Again, this was recorded and will be uploaded in the next coming few days, week or so, and made available. So if you want to rewatch it or share it with anybody, then go right ahead. Thank you, Stephanie. All right, everybody. Y'all have a good day.